We are witnessing the death of the male pop star. We went from years of the Beatles, Freddie Mercury, Elton John, Michael Jackson, NSYNC, Backstreet Boys, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, One Direction, Harry Styles, and then just none. After Justin and Harry, there have been zero men to ever reach that upper echelon of pop music. And I genuinely feel bad for the young people of today. They don't get to have that same experience of collectively fangirling over things like One Direction or the 1975 and how that creates such a deep love and passion for music in the community that it brings. And this void continued for nearly a decade until finally this year. With artists like Sombr and Role Model, it feels like we're finally starting to see glimmers of this reemergence of what is a main pop boy. And you may see this as just luck or a coincidence, but I cannot disagree more. This was the result of a deliberate marketing strategy, and frankly, a genius one at that. So what exactly did these artists do to break through? And what exactly does it mean to be a man in pop today? Well, that is exactly the question we set out to solve here with my guest today, Pop Sam Cam. I'm so excited to have you, and welcome back to Nikki at Night.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here. This is the perfect topic.
I know.
You know it.
I know, and also like longtime friend of the show, even before you came on. But this is like something I think you and I have actually even talked about before, like prior to.
I feel like in text messages, it's like it's a common thread that we have going.
Yeah, and that like the place of men in music is so interesting right now. Mm-hmm. And it's like also not that we don't have men with like popular appeal, right?
Yeah.
Like I think when you think of like massive, men in pop, you think of like Drake and Post Malone and The Weeknd and Ed Sheeran. And like, I would say they have made pop music, but I wouldn't say they are like pop stars in the same way. You know what I mean? Like to compare Drake and Justin Timberlake feels like wrong. You know what I mean? Or like there's a difference there.
Yeah.
So I think that's a big part of it is defining like what actually is a male pop star today.
Yeah. It's such a broad definition. And I think what we'll discuss like the most is how much it's changed from like growing up with people like NSYNC and also like obviously Usher and like the pop stars that danced and like had a full, like almost a theatricality to what they did.
Totally.
And how that has just been totally left at the door now. And we're at a point where that stuff maybe doesn't matter to define you as a pop star.
No, men used to do choreography. Like it's so crazy how like it's just like acceptable now for like a man doesn't have to do choreography, but like every girl in music absolutely has to, or it's like not an interesting show. Yeah. And also like this lack of choreography, I think is like why just doing a backflip is impressive.
Honestly, people just want some movement and they're like, somebody is moving.
Yeah,
so
it's
we'll
like
take
this
it.
much movement one time in an hour-long set is like so much like, like acceptance. And also it was so interesting. Like I was really thinking about this with like the Coachella performance too. Like I remember people getting kind of mad that like Charlie was by herself and like not doing anything. And then after was like Green Day. And I'm like, all they do is stand there with a guitar.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
There's no like plan, like performance or like choreography. Like this entire like visual identity and like performance aspect of a male artist has kind of like completely disappeared.
I mean, I can almost think of no festival headliner that's male who has like brought choreography.
Tyler, the Creator.
To that performance.
I literally think that's it.
Totally.
I literally think he's the only one.
Like blurs lines between what we thought was a pop star and what is a pop star now. And I think that has a lot to do with like how rap has kind of like overtaken pop as one of the like really dominant genres in the US.
And I also think like, like if I were to compare someone like a Tyler Creator to like a Drake, like when Drake was really like on the come up and also at his peak was also simultaneously the peak of like rap pop crossover. Yeah. Like there was like this era where like you couldn't have a successful pop song without a Migos feature or like a Drake feature. Yes. You know what I mean? Like from like 2014 to like 2017. Yeah. Honestly, me too, kind of like Beauty and a Beat, Justin Bieber and Nicki Minaj. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like there was just this obsession with like someone pop star doing the chorus and then a rapper would do the verse and like that was a song.
And that never happens now. It
never happens now.
It's disappeared.
It's really, really interesting.
Katy
like they
Perry
become
killed it with Bon Appetit and Migos. They were like, no more.
No, the Migos feature was magic. Like there was a period of time where like it didn't matter what your song was, but if there was a Migos verse on it, it was like the best song of the year. Like
Exactly.
it was just so good.
They were on such a streak at that point.
They were on such a streak. And like when thinking about, you know, like this sort of like what is the male pop star? I think there were like a few things. One, I was trying to think in my head, like, okay, who would I classify as a male pop star? And then like, what is the difference between these types of people, right?
Yeah.
So like the ones that like I really would be like pop stars, like Michael Jackson, Justin Timberlake, Justin Bieber, Harry Styles, in comparison to like Drake, Post Malone, The Weeknd, Ed Sheeran. And I was really trying to think of like, what do these people have in common, right? Like, or like, what is the difference?
Yeah.
Three things I had thought of. One, I think it's very interesting that like they had a primarily female audience. Like that, I think is the difference between like when I think of this. Like what's really interesting about the state of music now is like men make music for men and women make music for women, right? Like rap is so male dominated. Country is so male dominated. Pop never been more female dominated. You know what I mean? Like that has like diverged, which is very interesting because I think like every other aspect of music has become like more diverse than it ever has been.
Totally.
But it's like weird that specifically gender is the thing that has like distinct each other more. The second thing I think is like this clear adherence towards like being marketed as a heartthrob, honestly. And with that, like playing to a younger audience. Those are really like the three things that I had thought of like what of like a Justin Bieber, Harry Styles, and like Michael Jackson all did.
Yeah.
Also, I think this element of choreography, even you could include it there.
Yeah, I think there's something intentional about what a pop star does and they define themselves in a way. Like in terms of when you think about Drake or Ed Sheeran, they've always like very kind of like, they've been very intentional in making sure we knew they were not a pop star. Like Ed Sheeran was a relatable singer-songwriter and Drake was a rapper, and there was no way they were ever gonna like take on the pop star kind of title. But when you think about Justin Bieber, like choreography is such a big part of him straight away. Working with major pop producers is a major part of his brand straight away. Like whether it was him, I mean, I doubt it was him at like 15 years old being like, I am a pop star.
Right.
But the label made a very intentional decision that this is a pop star. This is what it looks like. This is what it's packaged as. And there's no way you can move outside of that kind of box. And I feel like what we see in the like last decade or so is that box kind of just like destroyed. And now nobody knows what it is.
No, like there was a clear formula for sure. Also definitely contributing factor of like that was like a byproduct of like us coming out of the wave of child stardom. And I think like post Miley Cyrus and that type of thing, there was a big like overcorrection. Yeah. So like in the 90s and 2000s, it's like all child stars, right? Like, and even earlier than that, we go from like Jackson 5 to then like the Disney Channel era with like the Britneys and the Justins and all of them. And then Justin Bieber and Jonas Brothers and Miley, Selena, Demi, blah, blah, blah. And I think like after all that happened, people kind of woke up to the idea of like, maybe like child labor, not so cool. You know what I mean? And like, so then like, if you think of the 2010s, I think there's like a stark overcorrection, right? And like, we don't like there's like a cutoff is like what happened with Disney Channel. And then like after a certain year, it's like, there's no more kids. Right. Yeah. So I think that was like a very, very big part of it when I think of these sort of, you know, like Justin Bieber, Harry Styles types, or at the very least, even though Harry Styles was not from Disney, he was from X Factor, but like, it was part of this thing of like, they got famous as kids. Which is not something that happened with like the Ed Sheeran and the Weeknd types. No,
and it's something that happens so rarely these days. Like I was thinking about Sombr the other day and I heard he's 20 and I was like, oh wow, that's young. And then I was like, back in the day, that would have been like in another age bracket of pop stars.
No, totally.
You had like 13-year-olds basically on the charts.
And I think this was also like I remember when Olivia Rodrigo was really blowing up, like for the first like driver's license blowing up. And like explaining to people, I was like, I don't think like you understand, like kids of today just like, no, there's no one else writing about their driver's license. Like, there's nobody like, as like we, like the kid, I think we grew up with like Miley and Taylor and Ariana and like all of the incredible artists that got so big and so massive that like no one else came in after that. So like we are very much accustomed to the idea of like, listening to music young and aging with them, right?
Right,
Like I watched
exactly.
Ariana Grande on Victorious, and like I listened to Ariana Grande's most recent album, right? And like
Exactly.
that doesn't exist for kids until
Yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo. Like she is like
Yeah.
the first one who's like, wow, you're singing about being in high school. Like, thank God.
It's totally true. Like, even think about Chapel. She's like 27, 28. Like,
Yeah.
Charlie is in her 30s. All these pop stars who are like really relevant right now, they're not. I mean, when I was 13, I had like maybe 4 or 5 like pop artists who were in my age bracket that I could listen to.
Yeah.
That's just not the case anymore. And I think that like ties right back into the male pop star thing.
Totally.
Where it's like a male pop star needed to be kind of like conceived in a lab in some kind of way. And it's so much easier to do that with a teenager than it is to get a 25-year-old and be like, hey, we want to make you a pop star and we're going to like basically just smooth over your entire brand. They're like, no.
Yeah. No, that's like a very, very interesting point. Like this idea of like the male pop star having to be made almost in a factory.
Yeah.
I very much agree with. And also like, I mean, there's weird things too. Like I think about this all the time with like the way that these sort of like male pop stars were marketed. Like especially I think at all the time with Justin Bieber of like how crazy it was, normal at the time, crazy now, where like he would go on these like talk shows, like
Yeah.
cable television, and he would be like 16 and there would be like a woman in their 30s or 40s. And like the entire gimmick of the segment was like her hitting on him. You know, like that was like the point. Like he would go and it's like, that is so crazy, one. But like, you know, I think it's like so interesting that I think after that stopped working and being allowed, the music industry was like, well, why try? Right? Like that's like really what it feels like to me. It was just like, we can't do this formula anymore, so let's give up. As opposed to
there
like
were too many roadblocks. They were like, this is too hard now.
yeah. As opposed to just like thinking of like what does it take to make a successful male artist?
Yeah.
Which then begs the question, like, what do you think it takes to make a successful male pop star?
Like now or
Like
then?
now.
Now it's so difficult to define because there's no dominant sound of pop. So whereas like back in the Justin Bieber days even, the producers that you would get to work with him had a track record of working with a bunch of other people, making a similar sound. There was that lineage with Usher and then another man who comes before them that we don't discuss anymore. But like there was that path. Whereas now when you think of somebody like Sombr or Role Model, there's no kind of unifying producer or sound or look to make them a pop star. So
Interesting.
it's just so difficult to land on what it takes now. And the only thing I can land on now of what it takes is charisma. Like, that's it.
For
And
sure.
still, so many of them don't have it.
Well, I think like something very interesting about the era of music we're in is like you don't have to make good music to be a super famous artist.
No.
Like, or you don't have to have super massively like successul music. Like there's a lot of people who I think are more famous for being famous than they are any particular one song.
Yeah.
I feel like this is honestly like at the very beginning, like how Role Model started. Like I think he was just like so charming and charismatic, and he
100%.
did like Jake Shane and like just a bunch of things where people kind of fell in love with him more than they did like any of the music. Then like Sally, you know, like was his like first Billboard Hot 100 charting song, but like at the initial blow up, like he was just famous for being Role Model, you know?
Exactly. He also doesn't have hits in the way that we would have said that like Justin Timberlake had hits or Usher had hits or even Harry Styles. Like this is a totally new definition whereby you can play massive crowds and have a huge following and still not have any like ubiquitous hits, which is what it would have taken to be a pop star.
Right. Before it's like you had to have a hit to like build a community, and now it's like you can build a community of people who like you like before there even is a hit.
Yeah.
And honestly, I think most of the time it works better the second way. Like there's a lot of people who I feel like I'm like, oh, they're just like one album away. You know, like they just need like Role Model is one of those people. Like I think the second he has like one big song that's like more commercial leaning. Also, I think like he's kind of like in this like weird like identity crisis of sound. Like I don't think he particularly knows where he wants to go. And
Which
if you
is
like
kind of nice because it means he has time to figure it out without being at the level that Justin Bieber was, where they were like, you don't have time to figure it out.
Exactly. You don't get to pivot.
We'll tell you what it is.
Yeah, you don't get to pivot. It's like you're this forever. And then that's also why Justin Bieber like experienced like a lot of dark stuff. Like I think as he grew up was because it's like
He
you're
spent
being
his
trapped
entire
into being a
career
child.
fighting against the machine, basically.
Yeah,
It's like
literally.
I mean, that's how we get to this album now, which is the first album to me that feels like he's free and he's making an artistic statement that's like really important to him rather than just like compromising with the label in some kind of way.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know. Like I have mixed emotions about this album. I really, really liked it. I think it's a good album.
Yeah.
But I was like, I just wanted something to like make me feel an emotional attachment to it, I think is what I was missing.
Right.
Like when you do this sort of like you're famous enough to just drop it with no marketing, right?
Yeah.
Like you have 200 million Instagram followers and you can just like post like, oh, I have an album and it'll get like 10 million streams.
Yeah.
Is great and it's cool and it's exciting, but like I don't like even just like looking at the album, right? Like the songs are like daisies and butterflies and
Yeah.
go baby and never gonna walk away. But then like the album cover is like black and swag and like
Right.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt like like when you're listening to the music is very like warm and endearing, but like the external and like marketing of it is very like cold and shut off.
Yeah.
And that created like a disconnect for me. You know what I
think
mean?
That's just this like confusion between that he always has, this like push and pull between being really inaccessible and then also being cool and then also playing the pop star game. Like there's always, in the past few records, I've always seen this like going on where they give him a little bit of rope to go one way and then they pull him back to the pop star thing. And yeah, I feel like the blackness of the album cover is him like shutting off and being like, I'm like done letting you in this much,
Yeah. Or honestly, like I was kind of thinking like it is kind of like reflective of him. You know what I mean? Like the way he looks is very like tatted man.
Yeah.
He's always kind of like, I feel like a lot of the times we see him like on the internet, it's like disgruntled and him yelling about standing on business or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, like that's what he looks like on the outside.
Yeah.
But like who he is on the inside is daisies and butterflies. And
Exactly.
like that's kind of like how I interpreted it. Of like, you know what I mean? He's like kind of like letting in that window. But I don't know. Maybe it's just like a me issue of like, I love when they really try. You know what I mean?
Yeah, which I think is exactly this conversation where like the male pop star doesn't appear to be trying as much anymore. Like,
Yeah.
And by trying, I mean, we kind of define trying as having like a really distinguishable era, very strong aesthetic, the dances to go with it, the music videos all tied together. Like it was a total package.
Right.
And I just don't think you see that anymore. One, because music moves so quickly that like having a full era is almost impossible because people's attention spans are like, what, a month at most for an album. And also like we've just started appreciating people's like, the way of showing charisma is very different to what it was back then in that we will watch a TikTok and we will like listen to an interview on a podcast rather than look at their music video and be like, oh wow, their star power is just like shining through, And that's why I think we leave all that kind of stuff we would define as traditional male pop star stuff at the door now.
Interesting. I agree. I mean, like when I think about like what it takes to be a male pop star, like I have a theory that there's 3 things that make or break a new artist. It is ethos, number 1, like what do you stand for? What is your unique point of view? Number 2 is like persona. So like who are you and who are the people that like you and why do they like you?
Yeah.
And then 3 is like some sort of artistry. So like what is the visual? How are you building the world?
Yeah.
And like I can clearly tell you in like women, like how women are doing all of those things, right? Like ethos is like when it thinks of like a point of view, it's like the eternal example I always use is like Sabrina Carpenter versus Taylor Swift, right? Like if they were to both write a song about heartbreak or the end of a relationship, Taylor Swift is like sad girl poetry. This is everything I learned from him. This is what he did for me. This is like why I'm upset. Whereas Sabrina Carpenter is like, you're a man child. I feel lighter like than a feather.
Yeah.
And like when you kiss your next girl, you're going to taste me when he's kissing you, whatever. Right. Like they could be talking about the same thing, but like the way they are discussing the point of view that they go at that topic, like could not be more opposite.
Yeah.
But like you develop this sort of like expectation of like what you like from them, right? Like that's why people like Sabrina Carpenter.
Yeah.
Is it's like giving them that like it's cheeky, it's witty, it's self-aware, but it's also kind of like I'm so hot and like you were lucky to be with me in the first place.
Yeah, 100%.
And like, I don't think like a lot of men have like cracked like a defined
No.
point of view in anything. You know what I mean? Like, but I do think that was really what Role Model did well. Like, I think the beauty of Role Model was that he had this like heartbreak album, and it is about a very public relationship, but like never once did he shit on the girl. He only shits on himself. He talks about how like he is insecure and how he messed up and how he is heartbroken and how he will always love her and how that changed him as a man, like as a human being.
Yeah.
And I think that was like so refreshing for young women to hear in this time of like incel culture and like alt-right pipeline on the internet. And you know what I mean? Like to see like a man from Michigan just like making music about why he was not good enough for a girl is like so rare.
Yeah. That's so true.
And I think that's like why it resonated with people, right? Like that's why he became like this sort of like underdog. Like you wanted him to win and you wanted to, you know, see him. And that's why like him going on things like Jake was so good too, because I think it really made you like view the human behind this person of like, wow, this is somebody who is like not just Emma Chamberlain's ex. This is like a man who is heartbroken by like a relationship with a woman. You know what I mean? I don't know. Like,
do you think like male pop stars have had difficulty getting used to this new like reliance on law when it comes to music? Because the females really are good at it. Like we've seen it with Olivia Rodrigo, Sabrina Carpenter, Miley Cyrus with Flowers and the whole Liam thing. Like they're so good at packaging it. And I wonder if male artists are seeing vulnerability very different in like a more Ed Sheeran way than I can still make pop music. I think tell that story.
Yeah,
which Role Model does well.
I think they're having a problem with lore. I also think they're having a problem with references. Like men don't have like great references in music until like somebody just makes right. It's like the Benson Boone thing and Freddie Mercury.
Yeah,
it's like there was no like adherence to a consistent vision there. It was just like this worked for another man. Do this and. Like, I don't think like women don't feel like they're doing that. I also feel like they are a lot more deliberate and strategic with kind of like picking lanes that aren't occupied right now. Right. Yeah. Like you're talking about like Olivia and Sabrina, as you just mentioned, like Olivia really went into that lane of like Paramore, you know, like a little pop punk type music, like a little bit more edge, a little bit more teen angst. Whereas Sabrina went a little bit more like Dolly Parton type sounding music. And like, those were two things that nobody else was doing. Whereas like men have this obsession with like only doing things other men are doing.
The Freddie Mercury thing, like we need to leave it at the door.
We need to leave it at the door.
I'm so done with it.
It's so weird, like this obsession with him.
It's because Harry Styles is the only kind of modern like the only example we have right now of a pop star.
Yeah.
And I feel like all the men look at him and obviously they've seen the audiences really relate to this kind of like flashiness on stage and this kind of like exploration of gender through fashion and all this kind of stuff that Harry Styles embraces. And I think just so many of them fumble it. And like him being the modern poster boy of what a pop star is doesn't tell people enough because his references are so reliant on like 70s and 80s pop stars anyway.
But I think that there is this like authenticity to taste.
Yeah.
Right. Like you can tell like he's an eccentric man. Right. Like they're like that little like picture got leaked of him in those like short red shorts or whatever. And like, you know what I mean? Like you see these random pictures of him and you're like, he's got something going on there. Yeah. Right. Like they're like it feels real. And I also think like a very interesting thing too is like with Harry specifically is like that sort of like credibility has to be earned. You know, like Harry did experience the same type of backlash Benson Boone experiences now.
Yeah.
The reason Harry doesn't get it anymore was because he's like adhered to the same vision for 6 years.
Yeah.
So like there is at some point you have to be like, well, I might not like this or I might not love it, but like it's very hard to like look at it and say that's not him. Right? Like if you've been doing something for that amount of time.
He's not switching lanes because of criticism.
Right.
And he never has.
Right. Or like to sell an album. Right. Which was like also the other, I think, like issue with the Benson Boone thing was it was not about it being one or the other. It was trying to be both, right? Yeah. It was like, I want to have a blue jumpsuit when I know I'm going before Lady Gaga. But when I know my album is in a Walmart in Kentucky, I want the cover of it to be me like dirty holding an American flag.
Right.
And it's like, you don't get to be both, right? Yeah. Like no gay, actual like queer person gets to like have that experience of, you know, like queerness is not a costume that they get to take on and off
Yeah.
when they're in the mood to sell a record. And I think
Harry's packages are so distinguishable. Like you look at the album cover, it matches the music, it matches like the
Yeah.
way he's speaking about it. Whereas this like flipping back and forth on what your music actually means, to me, is how to kind of not define yourself as a pop star.
And I think that's exactly like the persona and like artistry factor
Yeah.
I was talking about before earlier.
Totally.
Right? Like that's like why Sombr is so good, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
he looks like the music he makes. You know,
Yeah.
like he looks like
100%.
dark and sad, and like he's this like super tall, skinny guy, right? Like he just like looks like, and like even like the single covers are very like noir and black and white.
Yeah.
And I also think it's very interesting that he sounds like a band, but isn't a band.
Yeah, and it's in this age where bands, in terms of like bands who have commercial success, are almost completely gone.
Yeah, completely
Like
gone.
his influence feels like it's more like Julian Casablancas from The Strokes.
Yeah.
than it is like a pop star that was existing around that same time. And I don't think we would have labeled him pop like we do now if he was making it back in that time where there was Justin Timberlake and other people like that competing with him.
Absolutely not. There is also, honestly, it's like he's rock. Like I do, like something I was thinking about it. Like,
literally.
what is a Gen Z rock star?
Yeah.
it doesn't exist. It's Sombr, right?
Yeah.
Like Sombr is the closest thing to like a what rock has become. And it's very cool, like that his references are so like 80s rock. You even feel like Beach Boys influence in the way he
totally.
like layers his vocals and stuff. And that's what is like very, very interesting is this idea of Sombr is a solo artist following a lot of the blueprints and tropes of bands.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting. Like no one has been able to crack that. Because a lot of the men, again, like talking about, you know, even Michael Jackson and Justin Timberlake and Harry Styles came from bands.
Yeah.
And like in this era of like post-band world, nobody knew how to like develop a front man, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, I think you even see it with Harry Styles. Like he essentially treats his onstage performance like he's like Mick Jagger in the Rolling Stones.
Yeah.
Rather than being a solo artist. And I feel like that's a similar thing that Sombr's doing with a different influence of like alternative music. Maybe even Tame Impala is like the best.
Yeah, I honestly,
start.
I always think like it's like 80s rock mixed with like The Neighborhood is another one that I always,
totally.
or like
Yeah.
Pierce the Veil even. Like I could see that sort of influence. Another interesting thing I think about Sombr is like Sombr is yearning. You know, like you see all those TikToks about girls being like, men need to bring back like romance and being helpless romantics and yearning over women. And Sombr is literally like, I don't want the children of another man to have the eyes of the girl I won't forget is the song. You know what I mean? Like he is like down bad, like down egregiously bad.
Which is where you need to go. I think. Yeah.
And it's like the pendulum of culture swings. You know, it's always like, and that's what I'm saying. Like, it's not a surprise to me that in a time when there is the most, you know, like misogyny and animosity towards women, especially on the internet and this sort of like all-round pipeline that has developed, that like the men in music doing the best are the ones that are like heartbroken and sad and yearning over a girl, right? It's like Sombr and Role Model are the two I always think of. And also I think it's very, again, like talking about this pendulum of culture, like what differentiates them from like rap and country.
Yeah.
Like I feel like the rap country perspective is very like, I want a girl who drives a tractor, or like, I want a girl who, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know, like they have this like obsession of like trying to have like the perfect girl, as opposed to like, I am not the perfect man.
Yeah, that's very interesting and like comes into play a lot when you talk about Morgan Wallen music. Yeah, it's, wow, I'm having trouble like thinking about why I would
there's no
consider
right or
Sombr
wrong
a pop
answer.
star and why I would not consider like Zach Bryan or Morgan Wallen a pop star, because essentially they are at the center of pop right now.
I do think like there is this thing that and like where music is now is like if anything gets to a certain size, it's pop.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what like Morgan Wallen, like you can say is pop. And like it's not because it's pop music, but it's because it has popular appeal.
Right.
Like most over 50% of people know him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's when they're just like, it's pop now, right?
Yeah.
Whereas someone like Drake has like made pop, like Best I Ever Had is a pop song. Views is like, has like pop songs. You know what I mean? But I guess like the reason I would say Sombr is pop, at least to me, is like this primarily female audience and this marketing of like a heartthrob. And also like, has really like leaned on this idea of being very personality forward, I think is another thing, right? Like you see him doing interviews and clips on TikTok. Like he's like very like funny and young
Yeah.
sounding. And that's not something that like The Weeknd is doing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I actually think you've kind of nailed it in terms of us trying to bridge together pop stars of like the Y2K movement with them now. And those are like the three things that still makes them a pop star, even though they're not doing any of the things like choreography and like doing the kind of poster boy dress up thing. They still have those three things that every male pop star throughout history has had.
Right. And like, not every man has to do choreography. I just want them to do something. Like anything at all. You know what I mean?
Like Harry doesn't do choreography.
No.
But he gives something on stage that feels like it replaces the choreography in a way.
Yeah.
He's
And
not hiding behind a guitar.
And there's like a clear vision for the show and what you would wear to the show and what other people, you know what I mean? Like, like some sort of artistry component, as we're talking about before.
Yeah.
Where it feels all encompassing in some way. Whereas like, what would you wear to a Benson Boone concert?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's
either
like
the American flag or my glittery jump shirt.
But even then, it's like saying I would wear the American flag is like I can name 70 people you would wear an American flag shirt too, and it's like it could be Morgan Wallen or Lana Del Rey, right? And they're like not at all similar, right? Like it like there needs to be a deeper like edge to that. And like that's like I can tell you clearly what I would wear to a Billie concert versus what I would wear to an Olivia Rodrigo concert versus what I would wear to an Ariana Grande concert, right? Like there's three completely different outfits.
Yeah.
And like it was like quick I would know.
Pop star.
Totally.
That's it.
It's so
and that's
easy.
something that I haven't been frequenting Drake concerts recently, but I would imagine there's not that kind of defined outfit of what you wear outside of what's defining kind of the broader hip hop culture, you know?
Right.
Like, are they wearing something that's uniquely Drake?
Right. But that's why I would say
Wallen,
like,
same with Zach Bryan.
Yeah. I was going to say like, comparing like Drake to Tyler, the Creator. Yeah. I know what I would wear to Tyler, a Creator show.
Exactly.
And it would change based on the album. And like, that's the beauty of it, right? Like he has a unique character and a unique story and color palette. And like he spends so much time crafting this vision before you've even heard the music. And like, that is, you know, something that he has really, really like figured out. What's interesting though, is I do think that there are some men who are like close, but have not figured it out.
Yeah.
Some of the ones that like I just popped to my mind, and honestly, interestingly, pretty much they're all gay, which is an interesting thing we can discuss. Of like Troye Sivan, Omar Apollo, you could say Sam Smith even, or especially like at one point, Lil Nas, another example of like people who are close but not there. Mm-hmm. But I also don't know why.
They've had a brief moment and it hasn't lasted. You know, like when you think of Troye, who is technically doing everything that a pop star should and does do, from the choreography to the world building, has his moment with Rush, and it doesn't linger as long as something like Brat Summer. Yeah. You know?
I really felt that with Sweat. Like Sweat was such an interesting example where it was so like Charlie was so branded, so uniformly, right? Like there was that giant green curtain at the start of the show, and like Troye had incredible moments, such good choreography. The part where they like lift him up and do the keg stand, everything. But like
his choreography is great.
Amazing. Yeah. But there's no consistency of vision. Mm-hmm. There is no consistency. Even like Troye, like in terms of like ethos, like what does he stand for as an artist? Yeah. I'm not sure I would say, outside of him being like the gay pop star. Right. You know what I mean? Like he hasn't found some sort of like profound statement that he's like trying to make with his music. And I think that's like where it, I don't know.
I totally agree with that. And I think that's the issue that they all have, is there's this expectation. Maybe it's a pressure somewhat of being a queer artist, that they need to be making queer music in some kind of way. And that comes with pressures that makes them constantly be feeling like they're playing towards two different audiences. And I feel this a lot with Lil Nas X, where his marketing's been very heavily reliant on like the hate train and kind of controversy, going at the right wing and trying to like stir that up, rather than just like focusing on what he's got there, like adoring fans kind of thing. Their very existence is provocative in a way to many people. And I just think that becomes a difficult thing to figure out how you're going to play that and how
Yeah.
you're going to navigate that.
No, totally. I think with like Lil Nas specifically, what was interesting about him was like he really found this sort of edge that works, like what you're talking about, like intention, like really poking the bear of controversy. And he was like, I remember when he did those, I think it was like a Nike collab of shoes, and like there was like a devil star on, and people just hate, like they just hate. It's like everything he did was so like. There was somebody's mom in like the Midwest at church who was like complaining about it. You know what I mean? And like that worked so well for him. But I think there was no like, what else? You know what I mean? Like it felt like something like he did it like 3 times for 3 albums. And it's like every time it's going to be less exciting than the first time.
Yeah.
And there was no like, what do you stand for? What is different about you? You know what I mean?
Yeah, because there's a lot of people who hold the same opinions that he has. And once you've really made a statement about that, like when he released that song, J. Christ, for example, it was like, we know you stand for all these kind of things. And even the people you were stirring up have moved on from you. Like they know that you're so far in a like resistance to them, and you've pushed the boundaries so far that they've kind of like turned away anyway. So like that attention's gone now. And now the other side's wondering like, what do we have? What like aesthetically do you have to give us that's like unique or a different point of view, I think. And I think he kind of did it with Hotbox like this year, but the attention, like the hype has died, unfortunately.
I feel like he's somebody who's like had that epiphany and is like on their way back to like do, because he was watching like making a lot of TikToks about it. And I was listening to him talk, and I very much felt like he like understood that now. It was like, okay, like what is Lil Nas X beyond this? Beyond Old Town Road and like satirizing what is, you know, very like the music culture of middle America. Yeah. Building something beyond that. Someone interesting that I've had a lot of conversations about is Omar Apollo. Yeah. Because he's one of the ones where like I think the interesting thing about like a Troye, for example, compared to Omar is like the reason Harry has really, really worked with this eccentric like persona, I think is because he like, it works for the girls and the gays, but also like my mom would find him attractive. You know what I mean? Yeah. And like, I don't think my mom would find Troye attractive. Yeah. I do think she would find Omar Apollo attractive. Do you get what I mean? Like something about this like ability to balance like the masculine and feminine presenting persona has really, really worked in pop. Yeah. And Omar is somebody who I think could really, really do that in a way, but hasn't like found like the proper like footing or branding or like image. I don't know.
For him, it comes down to the sound for me. Like he just sits in more of an alternative kind of lane, I feel. Whereas maybe if he was coming through now with the Sombrs and like role models, there would be a different positioning of him. But I think when he was doing it, like the fact that Evergreen went crazy was kind of just a lightning in a bottle moment. It didn't really have to do with people at large investing in him and his brand. You know, it was more about the song going viral on TikTok. I just wonder if he's like come at the wrong time, because I think he makes incredible music.
Me too.
I think that he has that like heartthrob thing on lock. He's like in movies. He has a good presence on like social media. I just think he's like one kind of world building album away from people really understanding what Omar Apollo is about. Yeah. Whereas right now people just think like he's cool. You know?
That's a great example. I feel exactly how you described about Conan Gray.
Yes.
Totally. Like I feel like Conan Gray is going to be one of those artists where like people don't actually listen to his music that much, and then one day he's going to have some big song and everybody's going to claim that they always listen to him.
100%.
Like that is how I feel is like what's going to happen with Conan Gray. You know, like because his most recent album was incredible. It was actually one of my favorite albums of last year. Like Found Heaven. He's the only one who like did this like sort of like Freddie Mercury reference. I felt like and in a way that like didn't feel like just ripping off the sound, but was like
really
completely
went
new.
In deep on it.
So good.
Yeah.
Some of the best production he's ever had. Like it was such an incredible album, but he's just like,
I think he's a hit away from having his short and sweet moment.
Yeah.
Like,
a short and
really
sweet moment
that's what it
is right. Or like consistency, I think too. Like that is like another thing. Like he needs to have like a short and sweet, but also with the consistency of what short and sweet was.
Yeah.
Like all of the songs were so similar on the album, or like touched on the same themes and had a specific color and a kiss mark and a uniform and the short skirt and like, you know what I mean? Like short and sweet was like the most like branded album I've ever seen in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
In a like that's like what the magic of it was.
Yeah.
And right now, like when I think of Conan Gray, you know, he's talking about how he wrote a song called Vodka Cranberry, but like doesn't drink.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, so like what is like that, like that's not like the consistency of whatever something else would be. I don't know.
I felt like his last album was really good, but I struggled to know who he was through that album. Whereas I got a really strong idea of what Sabrina Carpenter's personality was from Short and Sweet. Whereas that one, I feel like the aesthetic was almost heavier than what he was, almost louder than what he was saying on the album. It was difficult to come away from that album and be like, oh, I know Conan Gray.
Yeah.
Like this is, whereas I feel like his new music, he is actually locking into something that feels like
I agree
we might be getting closer to the heart of what Conan Gray is. And once he like zones into that, then I really think that Conan is like potentially the next massive male pop star.
Totally.
But I don't think it's for sure.
I don't know either. Like, I don't know what it's going to, I literally think it's going to be one song. That like literally that is my take. Like it's going to be one song. Yeah. He needs an espresso.
Vodka Cranberry doesn't have the same ring to it.
No, close.
Particularly if he can't
Close.
be
We're
like
going to try a few more drinks. Yeah.
Exactly.
Could we do
Maybe if he
matcha
had a vodka
latte or
cranberry, it'd be
whatever.
fine.
But then the last thing I really wanted to talk about is sort of what I call, this is what I call the genre with my friends, is like white people wedding music.
Yeah.
Which is literally like Alex Warren, Benson Boone. Like it's like them trying to recreate the model of Ed Sheeran is literally how I feel. It's like a label trying to recreate that.
Yeah.
And what blows my mind is I don't know a single person in my life who listens to those artists.
Yeah.
But they are constantly like number one on like every chart ever
mixing
made.
in the right
and
circles.
I don't know like what is happening.
We need to take a road trip through the middle of America.
I don't think we do. Like I'm sure that's like where it is, but like I don't want to.
Yeah. I mean, this whole brand and the reason why it gets embraced by the people it does is because there's something very anti-pop star about it, even though we see that in like a kind of lame way almost.
Yeah.
A lot of people see that as being a very intentional resistance to manufactured
Interesting.
music. And Ed Sheeran, when he comes, he represents relatability in a new kind of way, in the same way that a lot of artists were, like Adele around that time.
Interesting.
And so I think that because he was able to show some kind of vulnerability, and I'm not even talking about the lyrics, I'm talking about just having an acoustic guitar.
Yeah.
For some reason, people see that as such a like rebellious show
Sultry, yeah.
of like being vulnerable and being relatable. And that has just continued on to where we're seeing it right now, like more than ever, I think, in the charts, is that this idea of people like, I can relate to that more than I can relate to, I can't even think of a male, but they think they can relate to it more than they can relate to someone like Sabrina Carpenter, because her music to them, they perceive it as being like too smooth, too like overproduced, too just like conceived in the machine.
Yeah.
And because these guys have like more of an earthy kind of look to them and like a really acoustic vibe.
Yeah.
People are like, oh, that registers as relatable and real and they're organic. They're not realizing that these people are just as cooked up in the machine.
No, what's crazy is exactly the way you were describing why you think that like people would dislike someone like a Sabrina or something is why I dislike them. Like it, like that type of music is so like, especially if you've like been in the music, you really understand how like factory produced that music is and how like it is created for radio consumption.
Yeah.
It's like, it's not country music, but it can get country radio play because there's like an acoustic guitar there. It's not Christian music, but like they say Jesus once, so it gets Christian radio play. You know what I mean? Like there's just so much of like this. And then also like specifically like the Alex Warren types too. Like then it becomes, there's like these random collaborations that emerge, right? Like where we see like, like Benson with the, Brian May, thank you. And then like Alex Warren with like Rosé from Blackpink.
Yeah.
You know, I'm like, these people have nothing to do with each other
Yeah.
at all. There's no overlap of fandom, right? But it's literally just like, we have middle America guy who we need to be a pop person, and we have K-pop pop girl who we need to get liked by middle America. So like,
Yeah. But this is the Ed Sheeran model, like down to the ground. His was always about random collaborations that would make this genre that was perceived to be a little too edgy for certain parts of the country. Ed Sheeran like made it palatable. He watered it down a bit. And then suddenly like a Travis Scott collaboration could be played on commercial radio like before he had made that crossover because he had Ed Sheeran. Like Ed Sheeran is like the like drop of milk or something.
No, literally. That's like such a great way to think about it. It's like turning down like the spice, so to speak. And that's why it's like desirable from a collaboration standpoint for them. It's like you're getting a window into this very vanilla world. And
I think if they were to embrace the pop star thing, it would make them less relatable in that kind of way. You know, if Ed was suddenly to do a fully choreographed tour where he like flew across the stadium and stuff like that, people would be like,
what is happening?
I don't feel connected to you anymore. Like I'm used to you with a loop pedal on stage, like feeling like I'm your best friend. And now I feel like I need to idolize you, which I think is like a big difference.
Very interesting.
Whereas I don't want to feel like I can relate to you, you know? I want my pop stars to be larger than life. I want to feel like they're doing something that I could never do in a way.
Well, I think it's a mix of both. I think it's a mix of
lyrics
both.
that you can connect to.
Yeah. Or people who have like really romanticized the come up. Like that was the magic of Doechii. You know what I mean? It's like you relate so deeply to who she was, which makes who she is now even better. Yeah. If that makes sense.
100%.
But yeah, thank you so much for coming on, dude. I love talking about this topic. I
know, I feel like we could go forever.
Oh, we could. I didn't even like scratch the surface of things I wanted to say. And it's so interesting. Like I really want a man to figure it out. I want Sombr win Best New Artist, please. Like somebody.
Yeah, who is your like, if you've got a horse in this race, who are you betting on?
Sombr. For sure.
Yeah.
Role Model's like one album away, I think. Like he needs to like have a sound. Like I understand who he is as a person now. I don't understand anything about who he is as an artist. Like I don't think there's any consistency in music. And that I think is like the last thing he's missing. But what about you? Who's your horse in the race?
I think Conan will be where I'm putting my money.
There you go. That's a good
I think
pick.
he's set up the law enough.
Yeah.
That it's like ready to pop with one record.
And I hope it's this one.
Yeah.
I really do. And I love the sailor thing. No one else is doing it.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good tight theme. Like that's
he's good at that. He is good at that. Like he's just not, there's not as much like overarching coherence. I also don't feel like he like I don't see him posting a TikTok as much as I see like Role Model. You know what I mean? Like,
exactly.
Like he is not as in the trenches and stuff. But anyways, it's such a pleasure to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to do it again sometime. And yeah, thank you so much y'all for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and we'll see you next week. Bye.